my name is Elizabeth Gerdes. I'm a physical therapist assistant, which means essentially I'm working under a physical therapist. So if I'm going to be working with you, it's going to be within the team of having a PT and a PTA. We're still take boards and are licensed and everything like that. Now, at Advanced Rehabilitation, we're an outpatient clinic, so we see both orthopedic as well as neurological conditions, which includes Parkinson's diagnosis as well. I am LSVT BIG certified, and we'll go into a little bit more detail on what that means exactly a little bit later on. Now, as for physical therapy in general and Parkinson's, we focus on looking at movement and just mobility, function, those gross motor movements. So, like walking, getting up and down from from a chair, going upstairs, going downstairs. Those big kind of things are our real focus. So we essentially are treating your symptoms, and we're trying to maintain a healthy fitness level, a safe lifestyle, as well as a healthy and active one, because we want you to keep moving as much as you can. So the symptoms that we look at primarily, we're going to be looking at just slow movements where you're not having as much amplitude. We'll go into a little more detail on what exactly that entails later. But walking can be a big one that people notice some changes with. Slowed walking, freezing, having less arm swing as you walk, which can be really important to having some core stability and affecting your balance. So that's a huge one as well that we take a look at. We look at balance in general, just standing balance, seated balance, all of those things can come into play, as well as joint and muscle stiffness. One of the symptoms with Parkinson's can be that rigidity that you get, muscles get stiff, and that can be something we can address with the stretching and a flexibility program that we can do in one of the clinics. And then strength, because strong people tend to be more confident people when they're in terms of balance and walking, and that can be a big factor in whether or not you feel safe to do things. And we want you to feel safe to do things and be able to leave your house and feel confident in that. So that's a huge part of it as well. And then, of course, with some of the rigidity and the tightness, we'll look at some pain management as well. If you're having pain, we'll try to address what the root cause of that pain is, figure out what that is, and then make a plan and how to deal with that. And another huge one can be posture. As I'm sure many of you know, with Parkinson's diagnosis, sometimes posture can be affected. There sometimes might be a stooped posture where you're having forward shoulders, forward head, and that's throwing your balance off because now your center of gravity is no longer where it was. So you have to readjust for that. And then also it's just throwing off your balance and you're walking. So we try to address all of those things when you come in. So when to start coming to a physical therapy clinic in terms of getting a Parkinson's diagnosis, the sooner the better. So even today, I had one of my colleagues, she came over and said she just had an evaluation today with a patient who was diagnosed only a month ago and very early on in diagnosis, but there's still a ton of stuff that we can do. So he's only a month into having diagnosis. Of course, he had symptoms before that, but we're going to just start right away and try and address some of those for him so he can be more healthy, he can stay more fit, he can be more active and just enjoy things a little bit more and feel more confident in doing that. Now, that being said, it's never too late either. There's a ton of things we can do regardless of what functional status you're at. If you're using a walker, if you're absolutely not, we can work with both. So it's not too late either. I have another patient right now who's was diagnosed 10 years ago, and we're still, doing a lot of similar stuff, just changing it and adapting it for where they're at right now. And then also in terms of insurance, it used to be a thing that insurance did not want to do a maintenance program, meaning that if you weren't going to continually show additional progress every visit, every time you did a progress note, they didn't want to pay additional amounts. Now they have an option where we can do a maintenance program. So you come in every so often throughout the year, maybe it's a couple times a year, we set up like a 3 or a 4 or 6 week program, kind of like a tune up. You can kind of think of it as where you don't necessarily, we're not bringing you, a bunch of change, but we're at least maintaining where you're at or getting you a little bit better. And now they're more likely to reimburse for that. So it's a lot easier insurance wise. So definitely, if you have concerns about that, just call it the clinic that you're looking at and they'll be able to talk to you about it a little bit more. Now, of course, PTs can work with anyone who has a Parkinson's diagnosis in any setting. So I work at an outpatient clinic, but there's also skilled nursing. I used to work at one of those. We can address these, symptoms and everything at one of those settings. Inpatient, outpatient. And nowadays we have the option of home health, which is fantastic. So with COVID and everything happening, like right now, we're doing a Zoom meeting instead of in person. We're able to have people come out to your home, and then also televisits. That's even an option nowadays. Depends on the insurance in the clinic, but it could be a bigger option in the future going forward as well. Now, when you go into a PT clinic first day, unless you possibly you haven't gone to one before. So just to give you an idea of what that experience is going to look like, you're going to sit down with the PT and you're going to do an evaluation. So essentially, you're going to sit down, and at first they're going to essentially have like a chit chat with you, get a history of everything that's going on. When were you diagnosed? What's your day-to-day life look like? What do you want to do? What did you used to do? What would you like to get back to doing? They'll look at your lifestyle, maybe even, things that sound silly, like what does your house look like? That kind of thing. What assisted devices do you use, if any? Where do you want to be? And that kind of thing. Get an idea of where we're at, where we want to be, and where we've been. Then they're going to look at what your current symptoms are. What's giving you the most trouble? Is it the balance? Is it walking? Do you want to be able to do a specific activity better and easier and safer? All things that they'll kind of ask questions about. And then they'll get into the examination aspect of it. So they're going to do some strength testing. They'll do some MMTs, which is a manual muscle test, probably. Look at your leg strength, arm strength, even just like postural muscle strength, just to see where you're at with everything. Because as I said, we like to strengthen you up because then you feel more confident with your balance and everything else. Then we'll look at your range of motion. What's tight, what needs to be what needs potentially a stretching program or some more mobility, and how we can address that. And then of course, posture becomes a huge part. We want to make sure you're not leaning forward too much and throwing your balance off. You're in a good position for everything like that. And then another huge part of it, they'll take a look at your walking. It's a gait assessment is what it would be called. So there's a few different ones they'll do. There might be one where they just have you walk and they'll kind of look at a few different things. But we also have specific tests for this too. One of them is called a Tug Test. So it's a timed up and go test. They'll essentially just have you sitting down in a chair. They'll have a 10-foot, or it's about 10 feet marked out on the ground. You're just going to go from sitting down, standing up, walking down, turning around, coming back and sitting down. Very easy test to sound scary sometimes, but it's not, just to see how quickly and safely you can do that. There's a few other tests like the Tinetti and then the DGI, which is a dynamic gait index, where they look at you do a few different tasks while walking and see what factors affect your walking, what make you go a little slower, what makes your balance seem a little bit off whenever they change things. So they'll look at all of those things and what assisted devices you use and what ones you also have and what you'd like to get back to, and take just a look at all of that. Now, they also will have you fill out different forms. A big one that we like to use at our clinic is the ABC scale, because it's looking at what percentage of confidence you have in doing a number of different tasks. So you'll put down any percentage from 0 to 100. It'll ask you things just like standing still for 10 minutes or getting up from sitting down in a chair, and you just put a percentage of confidence there. So we understand where you're coming from, and then we can see where we'd like to go with that. Now, as for finding a physical therapist, you can go on the apta.org. It's Association for Physical Therapy, their website, and they have a specific tool in there called Find a PT, where you can search in your area using your zip code or state or whatever like that. Put in you're looking for a physical therapist, specifically neurological, or you can even put in that you're looking for someone who's had experience with Parkinson's, and they'll be able to try to locate one in your area. But also there's the LSVT website, lsvtglobal.com, if you're looking specifically for someone certified in that program, which we'll go over a little bit more. So LSVT stands for Lee Silverman Voice Treatment, which right now you're probably thinking, what does that have to do with physical therapy? And not a whole lot is the answer. The program did not start as a physical therapy or occupational therapy related program at all. It was a speech language pathology specific program. Loud was its other name because it's focusing on increasing vocal loudness, because also that can be a symptom associated with the Parkinson's diagnosis. Now, it later became adapted to LSVT BIG, which is when PT and OT came into the picture, where we translated some of those same conditions and everything and set them to movement. So we're looking at making your amplitude and movement bigger instead of making vocal loudness. Now, sometimes, depending on what clinic you're at, you might be able to combine and have a speech language pathologist who's doing the loud aspect, and then have an OT or a PT or maybe a combination doing the big aspect. Now, LSVT BIG is a standardized treatment protocol, essentially trying to improve motor skills. So making your movements bigger, as the name suggests, that's a big cue. It's a big frequently used word when you're doing this program. It's certainly one you're not going to forget. Now, of course, the program, while it is standardized, it's also customized to yourself. So to whatever your goals are, whatever your needs are, what are the specific things that you're trying to do or get back to, your therapist through the evaluation is going to look at that and decide how to tailor this exactly to you. So while it's standardized, it's not a cookie cutter program either. Now, it's grounded in this principle of neuroplasticity, which is essentially the ability of the nervous system to change in response to signals, which is just, a different way of saying the brain's able to learn and change itself. So we're trying to readjust how your perception of things is and change that output as well. Now, with Parkinson's, sometimes there's been found that there's a mismatch between what your perception of, in this particular thing, output would be motion and movement, is than what other people see. So a lot of people in this program, the first, we're telling them, we need to walk bigger, you need to move bigger, bigger arms, big this. And they're like, well, I feel like I'm really big. Like, I feel like I'm over big on this one. Oh, and here, let me switch the screen around a little bit. All right. There we go. Feel like they're moving too big. Now, then the therapist will kind of show them, you're not moving that big. You're actually moving a lot less than you realize. So once we recalibrate and readjust their perception of that, that's how we're really focusing on everything. So the benefits that you're going to get from this, you're going to have some better balance that you'll notice. We're going to improve trunk rotation, which also improves your balance when walking, specifically because you want to have that core stability. One of the phrases we use a lot in PT is you want to have core stability for distal mobility, meaning if your trunk and your core are nice and stable, you can move the arms and legs better and have better balance with it. Now, we're also looking at improving your walking speed and just walking amplitude. Your steps are bigger. They're not short and choppy. Short and choppy steps can sometimes lead to falls depending on different factors, but we're looking at keeping them bigger and faster just because that's a more normalized walking pattern. Then we're looking to improve functional activities as well. So whatever you're having trouble with, getting dressed, going upstairs, transfers, meaning getting in and out of the car, maybe going from sitting down in a chair to standing up, things like that. And of course, the whole thing, we're going to be big. We're focusing on improving your amplitude. Now, of course, there is too big, and that would be addressed if we had a problem with that in treatment and things became too big. But generally, we're trying to just drive that movement, get it bigger, and get it more normalized. So it's a very intensive way to help retrain the brain, just move a little bit bigger without having to constantly have someone else mention it to you. We want it to come internally from yourself when you notice these things. So the protocol itself, you're going to have 16 individual sessions over the course of 1 month, which is a lot. So you're going to be coming 4 days a week, essentially, and they're 60 minutes long. So they're very long sessions. So they're very intensive. We're really doing a lot of work in these. And on top of that, you will be doing some home exercises. Now, while that sounds like a lot, home exercises are really where a lot of the work gets done. Now, in this case, you'd be coming 4 hours a week, but if you don't put in the hours with the home exercises, that's when you come into some problems. So we definitely want to have you doing the home exercises. That's going to include doing some of these maximal daily exercises. And it's also going to include a few other things that we'll have you do at home, some tasks to work on. Now, days that you'd be coming, it would be 15 to 20 minutes, 2 times a day that you'd work on the home exercises. Days that you're not coming to the clinic, you do it twice a day. Now, days that you are coming to the clinic, you only do it 1 time a day. And everything, of course, can be adapted to whatever your current functional level is. And any specific activities are going to be tailored to you. So for example, they do carryover activities for home exercises, and they're specific to what you're doing that day. The therapist will ask you and try to tailor that into your day. So it's not interrupting your day, it's just becoming a new part of it to help drive those activities a little bit more. All right, so specificity. We try to make it meaningful to you. So all of this, it's very standardized. There's a protocol. The exercises, the daily maximal ones, are very similar. Everyone kind of does the same 10 ones, but everything else about it is really tailored to you and what you want to do, what you want to get back to. So we have the functional component tasks where we choose that in the beginning. It's 5 tasks that you're going to be doing the entire program, but we're going to progress it and make it more challenging as you get better at different parts of it. But there's specific tasks that you want to do. So that's part of that evaluation. We figure out what you would like to do, and be able to get up from sitting down in your chair better, or be able to answer the door without having a balance issue or something like that. And then hierarchy tasks as well is another component where it's kind of like multiple functional components. It's a large progression that we work on just making it better and easier, functional, and safer for you. Now, that being said, we're going to keep it challenging too. So once you get good at something, we're going to make it a little bit harder so that you keep getting better, because that's how you get better. That's how you get safer, and that's how you get stronger. And of course, always going to be making it applicable to you. So we're going to make sure you have a lot of input in this. And we're going to look at things like some symptoms you may have, like with freezing of gait. That's a huge one that we'll take a look at. Getting up from sitting down in a chair, it's another huge one because a lot of people tend to have that problem. And I had a patient recently who he had told me that he hadn't gotten up from a chair without using his hands in years. He couldn't remember. And then we were able to change how he was doing it using those big movements. And in that first week, he was able to get up from the chair without using his hands. It was really great to see. So of course, we're going to model, we're going to be doing these exercises with you and just shaping how you do them until you get to a point where you're internally shaping that. You're not needing us to give you cues anymore. So it's something that you can take with you and continue on. It's not something where you need us constantly to be there in order to be able to do these things. So some of the daily exercises are here. Now, I do have a YouTube video to kind of show you some of these, but essentially these are some of the big ones, pun intended. So we've got 2. The first 2 are seated ones. You do them seated regardless. And the rest I have on this picture here are standing ones. But of course, all of these can be adapted to a seated position, or they can be adapted to even laying down in bed in a supine position. So let me see if I can get the video up for us for the first one.
We're going to demonstrate each exercise one time, and then we want you to try to follow along. She's going to be doing all seated exercises, and I'm going to be doing the standing when we start. There's 2 seated, and then I'll be doing the standing exercises. Obviously, you'll be doing everything with Kathy, but it's a little competition. This side is on her team. So if you want her to win, you got to really go at it, and we got to really hear you. So whoever's louder and bigger, for her, they're going to win. This is my side. You got to represent for me over here, okay? So we're going to start the program right now. Ready? Sit up big. Oh, we're going to demonstrate first? Yeah, we're going to demonstrate one first, and then you're going to follow along. Then you're going to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What? Okay, so you guys are going to follow up. We're just going to do a couple. Ready? Out. Down. Up. Out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What? Out. Down. Up. Out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. I don't know this side doing it bigger. What? I'm winning that. Hey. Okay. Sideways. Okay. So reach out. Awesome.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now the other direction. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
All right. One more each way.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good.
So now she's going to stay seated. You're going to follow along with her. But I'm going to do the standing version, okay? Yeah, one side. Ready?
Next.
Follow along with her. We'll count next time. We didn't rehearse too much. Okay.
So now we're going to count out loud as we do it. We're all
Next
taking
with the
feet.
side step, okay?
Are we going to do it?
Yep. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? Just the 4.
Now we're going backward.
Last step. I gotta move up. I'm gonna kick the curve. 1, 2, 3.
Come on, Bill.
Ooh, I don't hear you guys. You're not counting very loud. Okay. Next one. Yeah, rock and reach. So this is really gonna be tricky to do sit down. Don't hit it.
Just rock in your chair.
1,
Get those arms out here. 2,
3,
Okay, let's do 8 of them. So switch your feet. We're gonna do 8.
Okay, ready?
Make it loud.
1, 2,
2,
3,
4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Good.
All right. Yeah, twist.
Oh boy.
Like that, and up, and back. Just go that way already. We're definitely slow. Okay, so
Do
right?
one side, guys. One side? Oh. There you go.
1. Oh, you're on the other side.
Here we go.
1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
All right, so I hope that gave you ideas of what some of those exercises look like. Now, with all of those, what I hope you also got from that one, what I hope you guys also got from that presentation is that it's adaptable to all functional levels. So if you're not able to stand safely and do these, we can do them seated until potentially we're in a position where we're able to do them standing. And what I want you to also get from that is all of these exercises are moving in all positions. Now, a lot of times we're very good at walking forward. We do okay with sideways, and backwards tends to be very difficult. And this is honing in on all of those. So they've got the rotation to the sides. they've got the forward steps, and they've also got the backward step, which tends to be the really challenging and really kind of scary one, because we don't normally do a lot of backward steps, but that makes it ever the more important, because when you do need to do it, we want you to feel confident to be able to do it. So I hope that gives you an idea of what some of those exercises look like. That's a lot of the daily maximal ones. Now, in terms of evidence, because that's the important part too, right? Because we're not doing these just to do them. We're doing them because they've found clinically that they are able to provide benefits. Objectively, they make you safer, balance-wise, and a few other things. So they've done some studies. The JFK BIG study was another huge one that looked at the impact of LSVT BIG on dual task walking and mobility in persons with Parkinson's disease. So dual task is being able to do more than one thing. So you're walking and maybe talking on the phone, or you're walking and you're able to pass a ball hand to hand, things like that. So they found that the mean tug, so that timed up and go test that we talked about, reduced from 13.2 seconds to 9.9 seconds. So they were able to complete that test quicker in less time. So that's suggesting an improvement in balance stability, in speed of walking, and also general safetiness. Now, they also found that greater than 10% dual task cost, so defined specifically as the degree to which cognitive or motor tasks cause worsening of tug. So the degree in which doing something else while walking caused you to have a worse score, maybe not be as safe, not walk as fast, after LSVT BIG was decreased by over 44%. So that's great. That's fantastic. So you're walking, you're doing it faster, safer, you're able to dual task, to do walking and some other sort of tasks. And then also there's another study found the impact of LSVT BIG on postural control for individuals with Parkinson's disease. Found that through doing the LSVT program, they improved their tug score again by a mean of 10.4 seconds. They improved their gait velocity, so the speed of their gait, and they improved their 6-minute walk test, which is the MWT, which is essentially just, it's a 6-minute walk test, which is pretty self-explanatory. You are walking for 6 minutes, and you just let the therapist know when you need to take a break. We're looking at distance with that one, how far you can walk in that time frame. So their distance got better with that. And they not only improved at the end of this program, but they were able to maintain that improvement, they found, after 1 month. So they were able to maintain what gains they made. There's another study that found an improved tug score in tug times, functional gait assessment scores, so things like the Tinetti, the DGI Berg balance score, which is another balance assessment test that we do, which looks at a number of different things, and the 6-minute walk test again. So the things you want to know is this program going to help me? And objectively, there's been studies that have found that yes, it will improve your balance. It makes you, based on your tug score, safer when you're walking and things like that. Then, of course, after you complete one of these programs, because it is that standardized program, there's only a certain amount of time you're doing it for that month, essentially. There's things you can do to maintain. Now, of course, when you leave that program, you are going to be handed a home exercise plan, because they want you to maintain these things. They don't want you to leave the program, stop doing it, because you will probably notice that things might get a little worse. They want you to maintain. They want you to keep getting better with this and able to continue to practice it at home. So of course you'll have that, but there's also a program that LSVT has done called LSVT BIG for Life, and it's a maintenance program. So it's not the same as coming in for therapy. It's not going to be set up the same way, but it's a program that you can do. We don't have it offered at our clinic. I would love to have that started, but we don't currently. But some places do, where you're able to come in and just do kind of like a tune-up class, so to speak, with it. Now, of course, like we talked about, you're going to definitely have some home exercises that they give you at the end that they want you to continue with. And then, like we talked at the beginning, maintenance programs, insurance are more likely to pay for that now. So now you have the option of potentially coming in for a tune-up. This might be something that you do over the course of, maybe like a year after you get discharged. You come back and you do another tune-up program and everything like that. Now, I have one other video that I'll show you, looking at some before and after footage of a patient who did the LSVT program. There's got to be 3 screens. One's at the start of treatment, one's in the middle is during treatment, and then I believe the last one is at the end of treatment. We're specifically looking at this gentleman's walking. And you'll notice too, in the beginning one, there's less challenge to it and it gets progressively harder. But take a look at his arm swing, his speed of walking, just the stability in it as well. So just looking at the different images there in video, you can see there's a big difference. After he's been in the program for a little bit, he gets a little bit faster. It looks a little bit safer and more steady. He does better with the challenges they put in front of him. So it's a great program to consider to help improve your mobility, your safety. And another big one that we talk about often is that confidence, because that's a huge component of being safe and being more balanced. If you feel confident in it, you're less likely to have hesitation when walking and potentially have some of those other hazards. Now, do I have any questions from anyone?
I don't think I have a question, Elizabeth, but I do want to say, like, I like how you broke it down from a physical therapy perspective, especially since each discipline is so different in their very unique, approach.
Oh, absolutely.
With the program. Do y'all have occupational therapy practicing with it as well?
We don't. No, we only have physical therapists at our clinic.
Gotcha.
So in terms of how long between sessions would you wait? It just depends. In terms of insurance, there might be a specific amount that they'd want you to wait. I'm not entirely sure. It would vary by insurance. But typically it's once you start noticing things aren't quite the same. Once you start noticing you're having some of those same difficulties you had before, then you might want to talk to the therapist about coming in for another session and things like that. Now, if you're asking about how long between the sessions, in terms of like that current plan of care, when you come in to start it, you have the 4 days a week that you're coming. I don't believe that they specify which specific days of the week. Now, normally an outpatient clinic like myself, we're a Monday to Friday. So it would be some sort of combination of those weekdays.
Thank you for answering that.
Oh, yeah.
Does anyone else have any questions? I don't think anyone has any more questions. I'm going to share my screen again just to... So our next upcoming speaker is Iman Ali, and she's a Reiki Master Therapist, and she will be speaking on April 29th at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and the theme is the science of sound plus energy medicine. And May 6th, we have Sarah Rappler, and she's a speech language pathologist, and she also does the LSVT Loud for your speech. And her theme is Parkinson's disease and vocal health. And I want everyone to know that we meet the first Thursday of each month at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the Zoom link is right below. And I want to thank you for speaking today, Elizabeth, to the group.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure.
And I have our positive affirmation of the day. It is, I am my own superhero. And I want you all to know that y'all are all superheroes in your own unique way. And I just hope that y'all have a great week. And I don't know, be great. That's all I can say is be great and know that you are a superhero and you have your own superpowers just through your characteristics or however you want to